McFarlin himself.
Yahoo!
You have 5 to 7 minutes. I'm McFarlin.
Thank you, Ellen. That's just a marvelous, marvelous introduction. I did write it myself. Fellow Toastmasters, unfortunately we don't have any guests here. Oh my God! Oh, shit, I'm supposed to speak tonight. Shit! What am I supposed to do? So was my reaction when I opened up my email this morning, and I had this lovely message from Jody, and I opened it up, and I saw the agenda, and flaming out at me, it said, speaker number 2, Tommy McFarlin. Oh my God, shit, I ain't ready. So what do? I panicked. Well then, I got to thinking about this friend of mine. His name's Dean. And he's over here at Brookfield, he goes to the Kiwanis Club. Well, about a month ago, and they meet every Wednesday, about a month ago, they were bringing this speaker in from Chicago. He was a doctor and he was a sex therapist. And his speech was going to be entitled, Sexual Relationships, or Different Sexual Relationships Within Marriage. Well, my buddy Dino got there that Wednesday, and the speaker didn't show up. So they turned around, and he got stuck in snow in Chicago or something like that. So they turned around to my friend Dino and said, Dino, you're a doctor. Why don't you get up and give the speech? So he did. He got up and gave this wonderful speech and felt pretty good about it. Well, he went home and got up the next morning and told his wife, my wife's name is Vicky, Vicky, I gave a speech last night, yesterday noon, at the Kiwanis Club. She says, you gave a speech? Oh, yes, I did. Well, what was your speech about? Well, he thought about it, and he was a little embarrassed to tell her about sexual relationships in marriage. So he said, well, I spoke on sailing. Well, later that day, Vicky shows up at the Pick and Save, and there's Mary, a wife of one of the Kiwanis clubs. And she came up and she says, oh, Vicky, my husband was so thrilled. He heard Dean speak last night. Oh, wonderful speech. I didn't know he was such an expert. Well, Vicky looked and said, expert? Well, I'm not so sure about that. He's only done it twice. And the first time his hat flew off. And the second time he threw up and swore he'd never do it again. Well, that got to me thinking about how fortunate I am, or how blessed I am that I belong to Toastmasters and can actually get up and do a speech at the last moment, similar to what Dean did. And I really owe my many years in Toastmasters to overcome this horrendous fear of public speaking I used to have. But then again, I thought that make a good speech, you really should be humorous, and I really kind of fought that for years and years and years. And I really wanted to add humor to my speech, but I was really intimidated. You know, I do have a sense of humor. People tell me I love to laugh. And I do have an imagination, so I have all the ingredients to practice humor. So why couldn't I do that? Fear. Panic and fear. 2 fantastic fears. The first fear is you're not going to think I'm funny. You know, who wants to get up and tell a joke like Rick does, and then everybody in the audience go, oh, Rick, that just wasn't funny. You suck. Who wants to do that?
Everybody.
And then there's that fear of silence. You know, when Rick tells that joke, the 5th joke he told, and the room went silent. Those crickets chirping. Well, who wants to do that? So I had to get over this intimidation of using humor and trying comedy. So I started thinking about how we should do that. I searched and searched and searched, and we started Love of Laughter. And I found a place that gave me the tools to try to use humor, a very safe environment. And the only thing I had to bring along with me was 2 things. I had to be willing to really try, and I had to have the courage to get up here and listen to, hey Rick, you really suck. But so what I found at Love of Laughter was really the tools to get up and add humor to my speeches and to work on comedy. What a wonderful thing. It's really kind of simple what we do. We profess we have two things. We learn how to, well, actually we do three things. We learn how to write, speak, and evaluate humor. That's really what we do. And what we try to use is we have 13 different humor keys, and we have 11 different humor types. Tonight we have the humor type deliberate misdirect. A couple of my favorite humor keys. I love being smart and topical. You know, I always pictured myself as being the smartest guy in the room. And I love to read the papers because I like to be smart when somebody asks me. So I really look at that on a daily basis to glean little things about what's stupid and where can I find humor in the paper. Let me tell you, this fall was a panacea in the sports pages, particularly the Minnesota Vikings. My God! Just think about it. Back in October, the Minnesota Vikings, they fired their coach Chile, and they paid Brett Favre $25 million for 2 years. My God! What does that equate to? About $100 of the interception. Well, Brett had this problem with the commissioner. You see, he was texting these wonderful gals. He was trying to make an impression with these wonderful gals. And unfortunately, he took a picture of his privates and sent that to the girls. My God, the guy has no class. If he wanted to impress the girls, what he should have done was take a picture of his bank account. Well, just the other day, Brett Favre announced to the world that he was retiring from football for the last time, and he was not going to play for the Minnesota Vikings anymore. Wow. But you know the funny thing, he's not moving back to Mississippi. He's not. He's going to stay up in Minnesota. You see, him and Adrian Peterson, they bought this bakery, and they put it in St. Paul. They're going to specialize in turnovers. Another key I like to use is surprise them. Because surprise in any fashion, is normally funny. The other day I went over to the Men's Warehouse and I was looking for a suit. And I walked in and Ivan was a salesperson. He says, Ivan, what do you got that can make me look skinny? Or what do you think I need to do to look skinny? And he even looked at me and he says, Tommy, how about 2 weeks in Bangladesh? Well, the essence of using humor and putting that into your speeches, you have a lot of work to do. You have to constantly study. You have to constantly work at this. And the other thing you have to be prepared for is getting a lot of dirt thrown at you. You know, people get up here and just throw dirt at you. And so it takes a lot of that. And that reminds me of a story. You see, I had this farmer, he had this donkey that fell into the well. And he walked over there and he looked down at the donkey. He says, well, I can't get him out of here. I think we'll just cover him up with dirt. So he called his neighbors over and he started shoveling the dirt in the hole. And every time they'd shovel some dirt, the donkey would shake it off and step up. He'd shake it off and step up. He'd shake it off and step up. Well, and finally, the dirt was the same level as the ground, and the donkey just walked off. He was a free person. Now, there's a moral to this story. And the moralist will tell you that you should never give up. Life is nothing but a bunch of stepping stones. You need to shake it off and move on. Now, the comedian, they're going to tell you that when the donkey came out of the well, he went over and bit the farmer in the ass. And the moral of that story, if something goes wrong, try to cover your ass. Because if you don't, he will come back to bite you. I hope I have inspired you a little bit to join and practice with love of laughter. And maybe you too can wake up some morning, get an email from Jody, and tell you that you're speaking tonight, and maybe get up here and do a job maybe better than I did. So what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Let's get started right now. 3 guys walk in the bar. Finish it. Mr. Toastmaster.